All diseases begin in the gut. It's a quote which is attributed to a Greek physician 2,500 years ago, and his name need no introduction, the famous physician Hippocrates. And every time we put any food through this mouth into our stomach, we are either fighting disease, preventing disease, or causing it. So the effect of food is much greater than on the gut and this body. But today, to dive deeper in this topic, we have a guest in the studio, and she will highlight the importance of nutrition from all angles. So you're very welcome, Forum.
Thank you, Aparnaji. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, and I'm delighted to have you here for discussion on this very important topic. So, Forum Thakkar is a clinical nutritionist. She's a certified diabetes educator. She's a certified nutrigenetist and research presenter at IFSO London. She has done her BTech in biotechnology, and she is very passionate of all aspects of nutrition and food. So we thought she will be able to guide us and help us to understand better how to look after our body and mind by paying more attention to nutrition. So just to begin the conversation, Forum, I would like to ask you, where are you based at the moment?
So I'm living in Ireland, Dublin. So since 2019, I moved here in 2019 with my husband. So in Dublin since then.
Okay, so just before pandemic.
Yes.
So maybe it was universe's plan to have you in the right place for the pandemic.
Yes, absolutely. Right place, right time.
Yes, because there are no incidences or accidents in life, as we say. They are all meaningful coincidences. Yeah. So where did you live in India, or where do you belong in India?
So I am born and brought up in Mumbai, and I've studied there, and I did my engineering, I did my biotechnology there. I went on to do my master's as well from Mumbai. So yeah, Mumbai, and then now in Ireland. Yes.
So yeah, we all know Mumbai for the famous Bollywood. So Forum comes from that famous place in India. And so now coming to our topic, Forum, my first question to you is that food is a very essential component for our well-being. And we all know that. Even when we talk in yoga, we always say that the 5 sheets of our Panchakosha starts with the outer body, which is Annamaya Kosha. So Annamaya Kosha is the food body. And then we go deeper into all the other layers. But do you think that it is the food is very essential for our mental well-being?
Absolutely. The answer is a big yes. So let me elaborate something here. So we all know that, we eat food because it's a source of our life. We eat food for our survival, and most importantly for pleasure. Most of us associate our happiness, our pleasure, our celebrations with food. So food gives us nutrients to survive. But we also have to understand that excess food or excess of anything will, disturb the balance in our body as well as in our mind. So it will have its own side effects on our physical body and our mental. Now, physical, the side effects of a poor diet or poor food intake, we all know, the diseases like obesity, cardiac health, blood pressure, diabetes. We all are aware. It's a well established fact that food and our diet, our lifestyle, they all affect our health. physical health. But what we don't talk about is the mental health, of how it impacts, what is the role of our food in our mental health. Let me give you a small example here. Now, when I talk about a person who is obese or overweight, we always associate that, okay, this person is going to be eating a lot. That's how we say, okay, this person is eating a lot, no exercise, that's why this person is obese. But what we forget is obesity is also a reason, or also a outcome of hormonal imbalances, right? Obesity is a part of a very vicious cycle. Like, for example, obesity is a state, is something that influences or provokes inflammation in our body. Now, obesity and depression is very closely related. It has a bidirectional relationship, if I can say that. So obesity increases the risk of, a lot of health conditions which we know, diabetes, blood pressure, and everything. But also predisposes the individual to depression, not just because the person feels depressed that, oh, I am overweight, but it's all the hormones that are, dysregulated, or are not balanced because of obesity. So it's, and again, depression, we know that if a person is in, having some depression, they associate themselves to food. They're not able to distinguish that this food is good for me or this food is not good for me. So it becomes a vicious cycle. So this was just a small example of how food affects our physical as well as our mental well-being. So I remember this quote, or this thing that my mother taught me always since childhood. So every time we would sit to eat, she would say that, you have to eat to live, and don't ever live to eat. That is going to help you ensure
Yeah.
that you are doing well with respect to your health. So yeah, food is for physical as well as for mental well-being.
Very rightly said, and I really admire you touching upon the very big myth that exists in our communities, especially regarding obesity. And when we see any person who is big in size or obese, we always think about their eating habits or exercise, that they don't exercise, they're lazy and things like that. But there are so many various reasons. It could be, as you said, hormonal imbalance, or it could be that they are in depression and that's why they are eating more. So we as we say in mindfulness, have a non-judgmental attitude. So we should not be looking at any person and straight away jumping onto conclusions or judging about their physical appearance. So thank you so much for
Absolutely.
highlighting the importance of food for our mental well-being. And now, Forum, I want to tell you that how this topic was so kind of, enlightening for me when I heard first about this talk by John F. Crayon. He is a neuroscientist. And I was listening to his talk on a gut feeling about mental health. Like the topic itself was so appealing, a gut feeling about mental health, and a neuroscientist going into all details about the effect of the food on our mood. And I learned so much from that talk, but it really touched me so deeply because I like to highlight every topic that addresses our wellness, because even though I'm a nurse and a health practitioner, but I believe more in wellness than in disease, because I feel
Absolutely.
if you pay attention, it is better to remain on this side of the curve and
Yes.
prevent diseases rather than going on the other side. And
Yes.
it's all about balance, as you said in the beginning. So taking a middle path. So excess of anything can be really bad.
Yes.
But now coming to that topic, so when I was listening to this neuroscientist, he was saying that the language of gut and he was talking about brain axis connection with the gut. And I was like, wow, you know, I didn't study that at all, neither in my BSc nursing, nor in my master's, nor all these years in practicing in this area. So I want to ask you this question, that what is nutritional psychiatry? Is there a term like that, nutritional psychiatry?
Absolutely. So nutritional psychiatry, the term definitely exists, and it's a branch of science. It's an emerging field and has a lot of promising research that is coming up, which suggests that nutritional approach for prevention and treatment of various neuropsychiatric disorders is required. Okay, so this branch of science is very new. It's still developing. We need a lot of research. It's very much in its infancy right now. So I can say that the branch studies how the dietary composition of an individual will influence their gut, like you mentioned, their gut, the neurotransmitters, the peptides, the chemicals that are produced in our body after we eat food. All we do is eat food, ensure that our stomach is feeling full, and that's it. We don't go thinking beyond of what is that food going to do after it gets digested, right? So that process of how the food reacts in our body, not just physical but the mental impact of food, is now being studied and is being realized that it is very important aspect of treating any psychiatric disorders as well. Okay, this is the reason why the nutritional psychiatry came into existence, because psychiatrists and psychologists also realized that the importance of support groups or the behavioral therapy that they give to the patients, the impact of nutritional intervention is also equally important, and they have seen a lot of changes in the patients whom they were treating. And with nutritional interventions, the outcome was really good, really positive. So I can probably give you an example over here. So an individual with mental health problems, we see that they usually have unhealthy lifestyle, poor food choices. Eating disorders is very commonly related to psychiatric disorders as well, and plus they have nutritional deficiencies. So when I talk about in general, not even when I'm with a patient, for example, when I'm talking about them, about their well-being, even physical, I ensure I incorporate certain components that are going to impact their behavioral aspect or their psychiatric aspect towards nutrition, their approach towards their food. So let me give an example of how I practice a nutritional psychiatry, not to the T, not exactly as a therapy to treat the psychological disorder, but it does impact. So for example, when I meet someone, there are few things that are very standard for me. That is one thing: eliminate or try to avoid sugar and artificial sweeteners. Now, in the branch of nutritional psychiatry, it has been shown that, like for example, aspartame, which is an artificial sweetener most commonly found in diet coke, which people prefer over the regular coke. Now aspartame is known to block the transportation of our neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. I know these are big terms, but they are very closely associated to our moods, to our behavior, to our control of emotions, to sleep. So now this artificial sweetener, for example, aspartame, is going to block the transport of neurotransmitters. So ultimately what happens? It's going to affect our moods. It's going to affect our sleep. Same is true for the sugar as well, the white sugar that we use. It causes inflammation. It's known to increase inflammation in our body. So it's instant source of energy, but at the end, in the long run, once it reaches our intestine, it's causing inflammation. So it's essential to understand that they are not good for our health. So that's how something I try. Apart from that, gluten is something that I recommend to a lot of people to avoid. Elimination might be a really big challenge. in our day-to-day world, but avoid, eat less, or wherever possible just avoid is very, very important, because again, gluten is associated with, you know, various mental illnesses like autism, attention deficit disorders, schizophrenia. So if we see a lot of patients with autism, we strongly recommend go gluten free. You know, it's going to amplify your symptoms. So that's how it's associated. But there are certain foods that are also having very positive impact on our health, on our mental well-being. Now when I talk about that, there's one ingredient, one spice I talk in every conversation I have, and that is turmeric. Turmeric is like a gold that we have in our hand, which we don't value enough.
Yes.
So turmeric again is anti-inflammatory. It's the most potent anti-inflammatory spice that we have, especially in an Indian household. Turmeric is most commonly used. We use it in most of our meal preparations. It is used because it has a good impact on our immunity. We know it, it has those physical benefits, but it also affects mental well-being by decreasing the inflammation. Okay, inflammation in simple words is going to cause damage to our body anywhere and everywhere. So turmeric is especially used in Alzheimer's patients, right? Apart from that, it helps to treat anxiety. It helps to balance our neurotransmitters, which I just mentioned: dopamine, serotonin, cortisol, that are essential, that if they're in balance, they are going to ensure that we have control over our anxiety. I don't say we will not get anxiety, but we'll have a control over it. We'll have good sleep. We'll be happy, we'll be able to ensure that we are not having mood swings. So it's all about that. Similarly, the omega-3 that we all talk about, we always say it's good for our heart, but no one talks about omega-3 being good for our mind as well. We know that we all know these terms like DHA is good for our brain, and lately the DHA fortified oils are there because it's good for brain, it's good for heart. But similar to turmeric, it is also anti-inflammatory. It is going to ensure that the transmitters that are supposed to reach our brain reach there safely and do their job of transmitting the information to our brain to ensure that we are having a good balance of our emotions, of our sleep, moods, everything. So that's how nutritional psychiatry is still developing. This is very, very little enough to say that, okay, this is recommended, but not good enough to say this is a guideline. This has to be, a person has to have turmeric in their diet or omega-3 for their mental well-being. So yeah, it is like the nutritional psychiatry branch is evolving. We are somewhere coming close to using amino acids for therapy. So for example, if an individual comes to me with the symptoms that, okay, I have a lot of cravings for sugar, which is very common in people. I have a lot of cravings for caffeine. Some people have a lot of cravings for potato chips, starch, and caffeine or alcohol. Then I'm going to correlate, okay, what are the symptoms, emotional symptoms that you experience? They might say, I experience lack of focus. I experience lethargy. That's why I want to have sugar. Or I don't have enough attention in a given task, or I feel depressed. So these all are associated, not for the, it cannot be associated to the cravings or something, but it has to be associated to the deficiencies. So nutritional psychiatry tries to associate that, okay, they might have an amino acid deficiency. Amino acid are the building blocks of the protein. So they might have a deficiency of amino acid. Like for example, tyrosine is one of the amino acid. Phenylalanine is an amino acid. So if I ensure that I'm giving a good enough supply of these amino acids through foods like soy, nuts, seeds like sesame seeds that are good in tyrosine or phenylalanine, I may be able to control. And it does work. There is research that it does work because it enhances, again, the neurotransmitters. My body, my food is always going to communicate to my brain through neurotransmitters. So these foods, these amino acids are going to ensure that there is a balance in the neurotransmitters, and it improves my energy, mental focus, and drive. So that's little bit that I can tell about nutritional
Wow.
psychiatry.
Yeah, that there are so much to learn. I
There
mean,
is.
amazing that what you've highlighted about serotonin, because it's all about balancing the chemicals in our bodies and in our brains. So serotonin, as you said, is a neurotransmitter that helps to regulate our sleep, our appetite, our mood, and it even helps to reduce the pain. So some people don't know that our body has a natural production of pain relief, but we keep
Yes.
putting the pills in our bodies and we don't allow the natural painkillers to kick in.
Yes.
So 95% of serotonin is actually produced in our gastrointestinal tract,
That's
which is
correct.
amazing. Like, because serotonin holds so much importance in treatment of psychiatric illnesses. So
Yes.
it's such a good news for people suffering with mental health disorder that they have some control over it by just eating food that Forum has mentioned. And our gastrointestinal tract is lined with 100 million nerve cells and neurons. And as we all know, that stomach is actually a very emotional organ. And from what you have said to in the last explanation about nutritional psychiatry, actually that brings me to my very recent conversation yesterday with a client who was having a severe depression, and there is a history of alcohol abuse and a lot of smoking and all of that. And I was amazed that she does not eat anything until evening. So when I asked her, did you have your breakfast, did you have your lunch, and she was like, no. I was like, but not eat breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Like, how can you expect to be in control of your mind if you're not feeding your stomach? So thank you so much for highlighting the importance of nutritional psychiatry. And I loved the way you classified turmeric as gold. And in
Absolutely.
India, we actually know the importance of this gold, and in every household, turmeric is used and it's found. But only in Ireland, in the last few years, I have learned the importance of, like, making an effort and trying to find that natural turmeric that
Yes.
looks like ginger and
Yes.
go in the shop in Super Value, and you might find actually the original turmeric. And recently we have all been actually boiling that, cut that turmeric into small pieces, boil it in the water. Sometimes we even add ajwain seeds and
Yes.
just drink it. It's so good for your stomach, and it's such a simple thing. So
Yes.
do simple, and honestly, believe me, you don't need to make life complicated. It is complicated enough. So you can just simply stop your cravings by practicing yoga, by practicing mindfulness. And
Absolutely.
mindful eating provides you all the tools that you need to, rather than stopping or demonizing food, rather you can actually just stay in balance. And as Forum said in the beginning, you don't have to give up sugar completely, but just controlling how much you take it in your body. That brings me to the next question. So we all know about probiotics, then we know a little bit about prebiotics, and now there is another new term. So is there a thing called psychobiotics? And what is that?
Yes, yes, definitely. So psychobiotics is very much, again, I can say, a sister branch of nutritional psychiatry, because it's a complex system, honestly speaking. Gut is a organ. Okay, gut has millions of probiotics, or the good bacteria that live in harmony, or that want to live in harmony with humans in our system. All they expect is good food for them to survive, and in return they're going to give us a lot of health benefits, that our body requires and that cannot sustain without those probiotics. So until now, we all knew that, okay, I have to eat food that is rich in fiber. The fiber is going to be working as a substrate. The fiber now, or that substrate now, is technically or scientifically called as prebiotics.
Yeah.
So prebiotics are the substrate for those probiotics or those bacteria to survive, to grow, to multiply. In return, they are going to digest that prebiotic, produce certain chemicals. The most vital, I can give you an example as a they help producing vitamin B12 in our system, especially, which is beneficial or required for vegetarians like me and you. So that is one thing. They produce short chain fatty acids, which is essential for the gut health, to ensure that our intestine in itself is very healthy.
Yeah.
Now, beyond these certain benefits that we knew, the gut microbiome is expanding its benefits beyond just gut or just providing certain essential vitamins or amino acids. It's going much beyond. We are realizing rather that these probiotics are very, very essential for our mental health as well. There is something called as gut brain axis, which honestly speaking, we haven't understood as yet of how it works. It's a mystery till now how those bacteria are talking to our brain, right? But there are few things that we know. So I personally feel, one, that these gut microbiomes, these probiotics that are living in our gut, should be considered as an organ in itself, because they have their own health benefits. They're providing lots of benefits in and asking for very little, that is good food, right? So psychobiotics basically can be defined as a living bacteria, which is, when ingested, will help us with some health benefits, physical as well as mental, through interactions with our food that we eat. Okay, so psychobiotics is basically active ingredients in our body that are going to, show influence on our nervous system. It is going to be very, very vital and very important in shaping our psychological processes as well, be it with respect to behavior. And ultimately, obviously, it's going to exert its health benefits on our psychology as well. And this has been seen in research as well. So this has been seen in animal research, even in human research. So the use of psychobiotics was, they did a research wherein, the psychobiotics or the probiotics were used in treating anxiety, and the results were positive. Okay, so there is honestly not much of research to talk about this, because it's very much at infancy. We just know that it has a benefit, but we don't know how it works. We don't know how much probiotics are required to work, of that mechanism we still don't know. But given the limited data that we have, it is very clear that we have to work more towards this branch of science, do more research, and understand this gut brain axis of how this is working, how those bacteria are communicating to our brain, and ensuring that our moods are okay. All I know is, yes, we do use probiotics in a lot of patients, like for example, Alzheimer's patients, or in patients with epilepsy, and we have seen positive outcome. How it works, mechanism, we should be knowing it hopefully in another few years.
Thank you. And we all look forward to that
Yes.
more kind of expansion in this area of understanding.
Yes.
And as you said, yeah, absolutely, we know about microbiome and their importance, but we are yet to learn more about gut-brain axis. And
Absolutely.
I'm amazed to say this, that we are living in the microbiome world. And roughly the weight of our microbe in the body is same as our brain. So if
Yes.
we weigh the microbes in our bodies and we weigh the size of the brain, they will equally be the same. So they are as important as brain, if maybe a little bit less, but still don't underestimate the power of microbiomes. So that
Absolutely.
brings me to this. Actually, yeah, before I forget, I want to mention that very rightly you mentioned about vitamin B12 and its importance for vegetarians like me. Even being in health profession and being vegetarian, I never realized that, that I could have been deficient in vitamin B12. And even though the results might say that your levels are okay, but I believe everything what I learned from my own body, from my own mind. And very recently I had a very severe episode of sciatica, and I learned from my own experience. I started supplementing myself with vitamin B12 of 1000 microgram. And oh my God, I feel it has played a huge role in my recovery.
Yeah.
And I was surprised, like I was not taking any painkillers because I was trying to heal my body by doing things that I believe can heal the body. And I can certainly give a lot of credit to vitamin B12. And
Absolutely.
I actually researched on its effect on nerve cells.
Yeah.
So it makes sense scientifically that it could have healed my sciatic nerve. So thank
Exactly.
you for highlighting that. And now coming to the next question, which is very important. We will actually finish in next few minutes because we are
Yeah.
already going over time. So for us as yogis, sattvic diet is very important because we believe in sattvic energy. So can you give quickly some examples of what would be a sattvic diet?
So sattvic diet, it's mentioned in our Upanishads. Food is going to influence our mind. It's going to influence it. It has an influence on our body, but it is going to influence our mind. You obviously, we all know the gunas, the three gunas that we have: the sattvic, the rajasic, and the tamasic. They basically are divided, classified according to the psyche or the character of a person, okay, with respect to their behavior or the emotions. I'll not go much details about Rajasic and Tamasic, but Sattvic is very, very important. It defines the purity, the health, the harmony, and the well-being of an individual. Now, Sattvic diet, basically, what's mentioned in our Upanishads, it's also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita that a pure vegetarian diet, which includes lots of seasonal fruits, amples of vegetables, whole grains, pulses, sprouts, nuts, seeds. This wholesome meals or these wholesome diets are very, very good for health because it increases our consciousness. These foods, when eaten with lot, that are prepared, with lots of love, with lots of gratitude, it creates an awareness. It's it's a very simple, it's written in a very simple language but has a very deep meaning. This Upanishads were written, these things about sattvic diet was written ages ago, but we don't talk very often about it. But now in recent times, when I tell a client, okay, let's start with a sattvic diet, they are like, oh, it's too difficult. And I'm like, okay, let's start with a Mediterranean diet then it sounds like, okay, this is something Western, but Mediterranean diet also talks about eating lots of fruits, vegetables. Sattvic diet says don't eat animal products, but Mediterranean diet somewhat is flexible because it actually does come from the Western world, because Mediterranean diet was seen that it's very positive impact on health and mind. So sattvic diet basically is same. So it talks about eating with lots of awareness, like you always say, eating with mindfulness. Whatever is on your plate, you have to ensure that you're aware of what you're eating, how much you're eating. Last but not the least, your gut. We always say, I have a gut feeling. So gut does have a feeling. It does always keeps on giving you signal that, okay, this food is suitable for your body, this food doesn't suit your body. So we always have to ensure that we listen to our gut. It is going to give out symptoms. If I'm not able to digest gluten, my body is going to bloat and tell me that gluten is not suitable for my body. So sattvic diet basically is talking about balance. It talks about balance and harmony of each of the food groups that come together on our plate. So that's that's in brief about Sattvic diet. It can take about hours and hours if we start talking about the details of the diet.
Yes.
But this is just a small brief I can give about Sattvic diet.
Yeah, and we can certainly get you back for another session sometime,
Yes.
only to deal with this aspect of food,
Sure.
which is Sattvic Ahar. Now we are coming to the end of this session. So I want to ask you, Forum, what is your final recommendation in terms of everything that you believe and suggest about keeping our bodies and mind healthy?
Just simple tips that I would give to conclude this session is be aware, plan what you want to eat, plan your diet, plan your schedule of the day of what you're going to eat, how much you're going to drink water, how much you're going to exercise, how are you going to balance your food. So planning ahead, start your day right, eat well, wake up early in the morning, sleep well. So your sleep cycle is going to be important, so plan your sleep cycle as well. Apart from that, whatever you're eating, be it good fats, be it good amounts of proteins that are required for your body, eat more of fruits and vegetable fiber. Always remember, fiber is essential for the probiotics to work. It is the brain in the gut. It is going to talk to us all the time. Eating and sleeping well is another thing. Apart from that, keep a diary. That is something that really helps. Keep a diary of what you did, what you're going to do, what you ate, how much you ate, and how you felt at the end of the day. You felt energetic, you felt lethargic, you felt low. And that food diary is going to talk back to you and tell you that, okay, this food probably would have been wrong. So yeah, these are
Thank
the just few
you.
simple things for mental and physical well-being.
Yes, and as we say in mindfulness, that simple things are not little, they are big,
Yes.
and little things are not so little. So if you pay little attention to your food, as Forum said, even keeping a food diary or paying attention to the cycle. So our bodies and brain work in a cycle, whether it is sleep and wake cycle, or is it hunger and satiety center, and everything works in a cycle. So if we pay attention and realize when we are hungry and eating the right type of food, we are likely to stay healthy in our bodies and mind. So thank you so much, Forum, for giving your precious time. For us, you
Thank
are no
you.
less than Rujuta Divakar of Ireland. So we will hopefully see you again soon.
Definitely. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time and thank you for
Namaste.
coming up with this idea. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.